Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Daniel here with another From the Bookshelf book review video. So today we are looking at Critical Conflict, Royal Navy's Mediterranean Campaign 1940 by Peter C. Smith. So just to get into it, you'll see the book is called Critical Conflict, the Royal Navy's Mediterranean Campaign in 1940. The blurb, it says, during 1940, Churchill and the War Cabinet regarded safe passage for British ships in the Mediterranean Sea to be of paramount importance. Despite the catastrophic evacuation of the British Expeditionary Force from Dunkirk and the imminent threat of invasion from across the English Channel, it was considered that the vital trade routes to North Africa and the Middle East must be kept open. The German Kriegsmarine was at the time committed to North Sea and Atlantic naval forays. The French surrender left their fleet in disarray, some wishing to fight against their invaders, but the majority supporting the Vichy government. The Royal Navy finally put matters to rest with the destruction of the French fleet at Mers el-Kabir, an unsavoury but entirely necessary act of war. However, there remained the powerful and modern Italian fleet which, if allowed to operate freely within the Mediterranean, could cause the loss of Malta, Egypt and the Suez Canal. Their fleet had to be destroyed at all costs. This is the story of how this was achieved during 1940. So, it's published by Pen and Sword. This particular edition was published in 2011, but the original book was published in 1980 by William Kimber. The book itself is 352 pages long, including the index, bibliography and source notes. In terms of actual text, you're looking at 324 pages. It's a little bit on the small side, still fairly legible, maybe size 10 font, yeah. No integrated pictures, just a plate section with 30-35 pictures, so not too bad. And these pictures cover various different warships, Italian destroyers, heavy cruiser Fume, some of the Allied and Italian air power, a couple of shots of damage caused to the Julius Caesar, yeah, James Somerville, basically the main protagonists in the story. So the book is actually in 3 parts. If I just flick through to the contents, is part 1 called A Single Shell, part 2 The Strange Silence, and part 3 Run Rabbit Run. So it was an interesting book to read, but I feel the title didn't do the book justice. It felt like a bit of a missell. So part 1 of the book deals with the destruction of the French fleet, or the neutralisation of the French fleet, I should say. So the main focus is on the action at Mers el-Kabir and the destruction of the French Atlantic battle group by Force H under James Somerville as flying his flag in the hood. Talks about how sort of Captain Holland of HMS Ark Royal tried to negotiate with the French, and then when Churchill said to settle the matter, Hood, along with Valiant and another battleship whose name escapes me right now, opened fire and basically saved the matter by blasting the French into oblivion, with the exception of the Strasbourg, which managed to escape and covers the chase of her. And also looks a little bit at the work of Admiral Cunningham at Alexandria and how he negotiated with the French admiral there to disarm his ships, avoiding the bloodshed of Mers el-Kabir. So that whole action leads into basically the Dakar expedition. And the main focus in this book is the passage of Force Y. So Force Y was a group of 4 French cruisers which transited the Strait of Gibraltar and ended up taking refuge in Dakar at a time when the British and Free French forces were trying to launch a landing there. So that's probably what the majority of the book actually covers, is the whole politics surrounding how the French needed permission to move their ships from port, as part of the arrangement between Vichy and Nazi Germany. And it discusses how the French ships were sort of preparing to try and fight their way through the Strait of Gibraltar, and how sort of the British sort of didn't really challenge the French. A British destroyer located the French at sea, began trailing, sent off a couple of signals, but they weren't sort of, well, Dudley North gets the rap for it, and basically the book says that Dudley North didn't do enough to sort of listen to the reports that were coming in, didn't engage enough with Somerville. By Sims flying his flag aboard the battlecruiser Renown, before looking at how Renown eventually, after the French had passed and it was realised that they shouldn't have passed, certainly without being challenged, how he put to sea, believing that the French ships were possibly looking to target the Allied force then operating off Dakar. It covers that whole engagement, the fallout, and then it jumps to the Battle of Cape Sparta-Vento, which, without going into the details of that, it was an inconclusive engagement. It discusses basically how the battle unfolded. Now, for me, they're just sort of 3 engagements within 1940. It's not really the Mediterranean campaign, which is what I was looking for when I purchased this book and when I was reading it. I was looking for more on sort of how the Italians first declared war on Britain and France, how they then sort of launched the raids, the Allied air power. I was looking for sort of the story of how it all linked together. So starting with sort of Mers el-Kabir, Alexandria, moving on to things like the passage of Force Y, Cape Sparta-Vento, the raid on Taranto, and sort of how it all plugged together, and how basically within a period of months, eventually culminating in the March 1941 engagement, the Battle of Cape Matapan, sort of the Royal Navy had achieved effective command of the Mediterranean from sort of, first of all, the French fleet and then the Italian fleet. So it was lacking in that regard, because while I didn't expect it to go up to Cape Matapan, it would have been nice to sort of get the full story up to the end of December 1940, but that's where this book is lacking, which is pretty disappointing, because it could have been so much more based on the title and based on the blurb of what it purports to, the story it purports to tell. It sort of falls wide of the mark. It misses that just by focusing on those 3 engagements. And with regards to part 2 being the main focus of this book, and sort of the passage of Force Y and Dakar, it sort of detracts somewhat, because there's been other books on the Dudley North affair and the passage of Force Y, the whole Dakar expedition. So Mers el-Kabir could have been given a bit more focus. I know Deadly Stroke by Warren Tutte is a fantastic book on that, and probably the final word on that, but so you could question what would this book add. But also Cape Sparta-Vento would also be useful to add more information to. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on the matter. It was a bit of a disappointment, really, when all things are considered. So yeah, it would be nice just to find out a bit more about sort of the way the Italians conducted the Mediterranean campaign. Also, because while the focus, according to the title, is the Royal Navy's Mediterranean campaign, you can't look at the Royal Navy's campaign without looking at the Italians and sort of the air attacks. 1940 saw the beginning of the Siege of Malta, one of the key campaigns in the Mediterranean, but that is completely overlooked. Also overlooked are apart from the Cape Spartavento, Calabria. It's the whole convoy war in the Mediterranean and how British were trying to send convoys to North Africa to bolster their forces. The Italians were trying to do the same, and how each, to a degree, tried to intercept the convoys. So yeah, a little bit of a disappointment, but that's just my thoughts. If you've read this book, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more updates, like and share. You can also help to support the channel at Patreon. Details are in the description box below.